on how he communicates when it comes to foreign policy and his policies. Shouldn't we be backing the president? Isn't that the loyal thing to do?
He is Neville Chamberlain in 1939. He is an appeaser, and he will lead us down a path to destruction if we're not careful.
So why would a room full of Iowa Republicans think the president's really a Muslim? Well, with congressmen in Iowa like Republican Steve King,
in the business of seeking to embarrass the administration into enforcing the law, particularly with regard to immigration.
He won't do that.
You know, somebody...
He's a Marxist. He's a Muslim Marxist.
Well, he's at least a Marxist, and he surely understands the Muslim culture.
He surely does. And that's what he grew up with. That's what his culture is.
He doesn't have an American experience.
He
does not have an American experience.
He grew up in America.
joining me now, Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King. Congressman, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Lawrence. I think it's interesting coincidence that it was 72 times that President Obama interrupted Republicans at the Blair House at the health care summit. Bill O'Reilly, I think, must have just gotten even for that day.
Well, it was the health care summit was about 7 hours long, I think, Congressman. It's a little different. But, Congressman, I just want to go back to that tape we just showed. I'm not sure you had good enough audio to hear every word of it, but you lived it. You were in a constituents meeting, and one of your constituents said, you know, he doesn't have American experience. You said, this is what you said about the President of the United States. He doesn't have an American experience. He does not have an American experience. And the constituent then said to you, he didn't grow up in America. Congressman, where did Barack Obama grow up?
Well, by his own reports, he spent a lot of his early formative years in Indonesia.
How many?
And I'm going to guess it was perhaps 5 or 6 years in Indonesia.
Then where did he live?
Pardon me?
Then where did he live?
Then he moved to Hawaii, which is America, which is going to be your next point.
Okay, so my question to you is, you know more than your constituents about a lot of things, an awful lot of things, and you know more than your constituents about Barack Obama. Why didn't you say he grew up in Hawaii? Why couldn't you bring yourself to say that? It
would have been a contradiction of the facts. I mean, his really very formative years from age about 5 on to 9 or 10.
Are you denying that he grew up in Hawaii?
It certainly was. It certainly was. I don't think there's any question. Part of his upbringing was in Hawaii.
Now, do you have any doubt about whether he is a Christian?
You know, I think that is up to the president, but I will tell you that I would not present him as anything other than that. It's his religion. That's what he said. In fact, when he gave his speech in Cairo last year,
do you believe he's a Christian?
The Muslim crowd that he's
a Christian, Congressman?
I take him at his word.
Are you a Christian?
Yes, sir.
Should I take you at your word, or should I maybe suspect you're a Muslim? Do you have a Christian ID you can show me and prove to me you're a Christian?
I think God's going to ask you not to judge, as I'm not judging President Obama's religion.
Do you have a Christian ID?
No one has a Christian ID.
Catholics get birth certificates, get baptismal certificates. In fact, there are some religions that do issue certificates of certain kinds. Do you have any?
I don't think I do. I've got a certificate of baptism, so that would be a start.
How do we know you are not a Muslim? How do you know someone is not a Muslim and is a Christian?
As I said, to bring this back around full circle, the president stood in Cairo and spoke to the Muslim world and professed to be a Christian. If he will stand in front of the Muslim world and make that statement, I take him at his word. I don't question his religion. I will say that the criticism of his religion seems to have accelerated his church going, and I think that's a good thing.
Now, do you think the kind of meeting that you had with your constituents helps clarify for them the president's religion, or helps confuse them to the point that 40% of a Republican focus group in your state is completely wrong about the president being a Muslim?
Well, I saw a poll in the Examiner today that showed 46% of Republicans believe that. So I would submit it's not a Republican problem. This is the president's problem. I mean, he has done some to dispel this, but not completely.
Well, let me ask you this. If Republicans believe the world is flat, is that a Republican problem or a geography problem?
If the president had been involved in convincing people the world is flat, it's partly his problem, too. But if you listen, the president went to Cairo and gave his speech. He said to the people in Cairo, and he went to speak to the Muslim world. That's how he presented it. He said he's a Christian, but he also said he grew up in 3 continents of exposure to the Muslim culture and that he's familiar with the Muslim culture. He also talked about the call to prayer. And so he reached out and he reminded them of his middle name. The president has done not a lot to dispel this thing that I think is a myth, and so I think it's the president's problem, not the Republican problem.
When JFK gave a speech about the Berlin Wall, did people in Iowa think he was German?
Oh, of course not.
Why not? Are you telling me that it's legitimate for people in Iowa to think he's a Muslim because he gave a speech in Cairo?
I think you're missing my point. I'm talking about the content of the speech and the purpose for the speech. He went
if he gave a speech to Germans,
if
he gave a speech addressed to Germans, okay, as other presidents have done when there was a Berlin Wall, would your constituents think the president was then German?
Of course not.
Why not? That seems to be the logic that prevails among your constituents, which you do nothing to correct.
Let me submit that he said my name is John Fitzgerald Kennedy, not Barack. Mentioned my middle name, Obama. The president made it a point to emphasize his middle name in Cairo and to talk about his upbringing in the Muslim culture. And so that helps to perpetuate the persona that he has a close affiliation with the Muslim religion.
Do you think,
I think that's
do you think when you meet with your constituents and you do not explain to them the truth about the president that you are also complicit in perpetuating this lie?
How about, I just didn't want to have an argument in that scenario, Lawrence.
What about an argument?
Some of these are very hot, volatile meetings, and you don't want to start an argument.
What about an argument about the truth? It is your duty to argue with your constituents about the truth.
Well, and with you. And I do that. But you can't pick every fight. You have to pull that out of context, and you go into a meeting. Remember, we had packed town hall meetings. We had a lot of angry people. They wanted their freedom. They didn't want Barack Obama taking their liberty and imposing Obamacare on them. That's the emotion that was behind that statement, and they're looking for every argument that protects their liberty, and I'm pledged to uphold the Constitution and protect their liberty. That's what this is about.
Congressman, I will ask you this favor for America. The next time your constituents talk to you like that, would you please just treat it the way John McCain treated it during the campaign when we saw in a live television situation a woman say something like that to John McCain and he just said, no, that's not true. You can do that for us, Congressman. You can do that for this country. You can do it for your constituents. Get it on some videotape and we will show it here.
Well, let's do this. So I'll ask you, go back and read the president's speech in Cairo. That'll give you a sense of what he's doing that helps move this myth along. And if he will pull back from that a little bit, I'll see if I can move a little in that direction. We can come together, Lawrence.
Just asking you to tell the truth, Congressman. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
You.
What impact will this